The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. May 30th, you guys, and today is a National Creativity Day today, you guys. Nothing? Okay. All right. Nothing, you guys. It's also Loomis Day today, you guys. And it is also National Mint Julep Day today.
Those are fucking disgusting.
You don't like those?
That's why I said they're fucking disgusting.
Interesting. Jenny Beth does not like mint juleps, you guys. Look at that. Look at that. It's also National Hole in My Bucket Day and National Water a Flower Day. And just so you know, that's where the hole in the bucket comes from, is from watering flowers, just so you know. Just in case anybody's wondering. I happen to remember that from last year.
Do you remember the song, Jason?
What song?
There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza.
You know what? I do actually. Yeah.
Bucket, Liza, a hole.
Yes. I mean, Dr. Mark, that song's more from your time, isn't it?
No, Hell in a Bucket.
Oh man.
Hell in a bucket. You may be going to hell in a bucket, but at least you're enjoying the ride, right?
Oh man.
Hell, I fix it, dear Liza, dear Liza. The fact that I still know that whole fucking song is embarrassing.
Yeah, you know what? I do remember that song, Jenny Beth. I know.
Do you
exactly
remember it at least, Dr.
Yeah.
Mark? You do, right? Don't leave me out here on this bridge by myself.
No.
Dr.
Shit.
Mark doesn't. Yeah, I remember it, Jenny Beth. Yeah. You know, Dr. Mark has so many of those different formulations in his brain. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's just that and Grateful Dead songs pretty much.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's all there's room for.
Yep. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. There's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X. But today we're not on X, I don't think. Something's going on with it. Not sure why. Sorry, guys. Instagram, Facebook. Oh, X is fixed. Oh, sweet. Well, we are on X too. And as well as on our website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms, you guys. And we are going to kick this off this morning with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that can help your life get on back track if you are a victim of the track. That's right, it is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
I don't know that I like this intro. We're gonna have to work on that, Jason.
All right, well we can work on that. I'm totally fine. I'm open to changing.
Okay. Are you?
Yeah, always.
Anthony, soundbite that. I need it. For reasons. All right. So, speaking of changes, this is a good change. Because the Hawaii governor has expanded medical marijuana caregiver rights in Hawaii. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. They were going to absolutely destroy the caregiver program. It is the backbone of Hawaii's cannabis program. And, you know, for the Hawaiian Islands, for you guys who haven't spent a lot of time there or worked with these people, it's kind of the basis of their whole society. Like they're very different. They're an island, so getting things there and getting resources there is very different for us, where we would just throw a truck on the road. So it's much more communal in every sense. And so having this change come up and saving that caregiver program has been really important. So Hawaii Governor Josh Green has signed a new law expanding the rights of medical marijuana caregivers. Under Senate Bill 1429, caregivers can now grow cannabis for up to 5 qualified patients, a significant increase from the previous limit of 1. The measure also extends the state's allowance for caregivers to cultivate cannabis, which technically expired earlier this year. A temporary executive order had protected caregivers from enforcement as lawmakers worked to finalize the fix. The new law highlights that nearly half of Hawaii's medical marijuana patients still rely on sources other than licensed dispensaries for their cannabis, including home cultivation and caregivers, emphasizing the need for multiple safe and legal access points. Violations of the updated caregiver law could result in fines of up to $5,000 per offense enforced by the State Department of Health. Governor Green also recently received House Bill 302, which would allow medical cannabis recommendations for any condition a doctor deems appropriate and permit telehealth evaluations, removing the need for in-person visits. Meanwhile, separate efforts to legalize adult use marijuana and expand decriminalization stalled this session. A bill to increase the possession limit from 3 to 15 grams narrowly failed in the Senate, and another bill to legalize adult use cannabis didn't advance out of committee. Still, Hawaii is making progress elsewhere. Governor Green signed a bill last month aimed at speeding up the expungement of marijuana-related convictions, part of a broader pilot program to clear eligible criminal records more efficiently. While adult use legalization efforts have slowed, advocates say the groundwork is being laid for a future reform. Hawaii notably was the first U.S. state to legalize medical marijuana through its legislature back in 2000. So, great news. I'm really excited that they're giving doctors the autonomy to be doctors and actually decide what conditions they should treat their patients for. And I love that they're working on protecting caregivers' rights, because that is it's like I said, the backbone of the Hawaiian cannabis market. So I'll throw it back to you guys and get your opinions. But, to me, this is good news, and good news.
I totally agree with that. I'm totally agree. I think this is fantastic news. This is a great way to start off a Friday, getting into the weekend, right, Dr. T?
Yeah. Happy Friday, everyone. I think this is also good news. It's going to be an interesting market force because it essentially brings the supply of the cannabis to the individual grower. My one concern is what are the regulations around a caregiver having to provide a certificate of analysis on their product. I'm calling it a product, but
they don't.
So there's a safety concern there.
Interesting. You're worried about the home growers as far as them not producing quality product, huh, Dr. T?
I'm sure they want to produce quality product, but sometimes people do things that are not quality. Whether they know that they're doing it or not.
That's fair. That's fair. I think that's a fair criticism. You know what I mean? People do want to do good, but at the same time, some people aren't as advanced in chemistry with the different products that they use as Dr. Mark. And you know what I'm saying? They may think that like Avid is good or Eagle 20 is good, right, Dr. Mark?
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's a weed. It grows from the ground. I mean, with very little care, you can grow cannabis at home that is likely just as safe as cannabis that you'd buy at a dispensary. That said, I mean, even the most experienced growers can get hit with PM and get hit with mold.
Yep.
But like for those of us who are just kind of like novice growers who might grow like a couple plants on their property or on your patio in a flower pot, it's fun to grow. I mean, the plant teaches you a lot about itself, and it's so cool to watch the little plant turn into a big plant and ultimately flowers, and you start smelling that. I mean, it's a great hobby to have in states that allow home grow. I encourage people to grow because of the experience of it all. But I hear what you're saying, Dr. T. I mean, like there's a lot of, I mean, for years we were smoking moldy weed. We didn't even know it, right? I mean, all that brickweed that we were getting, you know.
Oh, brickweed definitely had mold in it for sure. Paraquat, all kinds of stuff.
Totally. But like if you know, like I can walk into a house immediately and smell if there's a mold problem in the basement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's drywall that's getting wet and it's like a musty house, I have a sensitive enough nose that I could walk into that house and immediately smell that they have a mold problem, probably originating in their basement. So I think some people are more sensitive to it than others. When I remember the smell of like brickweed, old weed, yeah, it often had kind of like that musty smell. And you can imagine if this was just grown in a ditch somewhere down in Mexico or in the Southwest or something, and all hacked down and, you know, not properly trimmed or cured, that there probably was a lot of mold and other things.
Well, sometimes,
but, you know,
sometimes, Dr. Mark, you know what I mean? That old brown weed had a strong gasoline smell because it was brought over in the gasoline tank.
Yeah, literally.
You know, that's how you know it's that fire.
Yeah, cocaine too. You smell sometimes. Okay, the thing with cocaine, sometimes they actually use gasoline in the processing of the coca plant. So what they'll do is they'll mash up the coca plant and they'll use gasoline just as a solvent. It's available, and then they treat it with hydrochloric acid, and what precipitates out from that is cocaine hydrochloride. So sometimes, in your coke you could smell a little bit of gasoline too, but you know.
Get your ass going, you know what I'm saying? And speaking of that, we are going to go right into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back. Great story today, Jenny Beth. Great job.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Yes, and we are back.
Coming up next, the ever inquisitive, always struggling with pronunciation, highest Jason Beth.
Oh man, you're funny, Jenny Beth. Very, 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 very funny. Look at that. Look at that. I'm sorry, gotta scroll down a little bit. Oh, I apologize for this, you guys. I should have been a little bit more ready. But you guys, oh man, you guys, Thailand. All you guys love Thailand. Set apparently to make a U-turn on adult use cannabis use, you guys. That's right. Thailand is moving to restrict cannabis to medical use only. What will the new rules mean for the booming weed industry? Well, Thailand decriminalized cannabis back in 2022, and however, it did so without a comprehensive law regulating its sale, production, or use. And since then, tens of thousands of licensed dispensaries and retailers selling cannabis and cannabis extracts have opened across the country, particularly in touristy hotspots. 3 years later, Thailand is now planning to tighten the control of marijuana use, ensuring that cannabis is only used for medical purposes and not for adult use purposes. Under a new medical bill expected to be announced in the next few weeks, dispensaries will be allowed to sell cannabis only to other licensed shops or to customers with a prescription from a medical professional. Chakawan, better known as Kitty Chapawaka, a well-known cannabis activist in Thailand, said the new medical bill could see a 90% drop in licensed cannabis shops in Thailand. In a quote, she says, "I understand what the government is doing. I don't agree with it," she told DW. In an additional quote, "I feel the ones that are going to be left are the bigger shops who actually have the war chest, and they will serve the tourists, and the locals will probably grow their own because getting a doctor's note is going to be too much of an issue," she says. "There will probably be only 1,000 dispensaries left," Kitty added. What issues has Thailand faced? Well, the government has hoped that decriminalizing cannabis would turn it into a kind of a cash crop for Thailand, boosting its tourism and agriculture sectors, with the Thai Chamber of Commerce estimating it could be worth $1.2 billion, and that's $1.06 billion annually in euros. But the lack of a law governing its use created a loophole, which has seen a rise in adult use. Illegal distribution and saturated market and the free use of cannabis has also seen some backlash from activist groups who have protested against its legalization. Tighter regulations for the use of cannabis also came at a time when tourists have been warned about taking cannabis products out of Thailand. Oh, that was Jenny's story yesterday. In recent weeks, 2 British women were arrested in Georgia and Sri Lanka, respectively, for allegedly smuggling cannabis. And marijuana that has been smuggled out of Thailand has also prompted concerns from Thai officials over how easily and in what quantities cannabis can be purchased today. Changing everything overnight is not realistic, they say, but Gloria Lay Asia, a regional director for the International Drug Policy Consortium, said the decision for a new bill seems rushed, she says. In a quote, "The health minister announcement appears to be a knee-jerk reaction to concerns about people smuggling cannabis out of Thailand, and it is questionable whether the proposal to restrict the buying and selling of cannabis to medical prescription only will solve that concern," she told DW. And in an additional quote, "Given the proposal of legislation to regulate cannabis in a more comprehensive manner, it seems more useful to initiate inclusive consultations on those proposals, while allowing reasonable timeframes for inputs from communities impacted by proposed cannabis regulations, rather than rapidly introducing new rules that risk causing greater confusion," you guys. Radapon Snarak, founder and president of the Highland Network, a cannabis organization in Thailand, said the new cannabis bill poses potential problems for the industry, and in a quote says, "Sudden enforcement could cause chaos," he told DW. "If the law takes effect right away, businesses, the public, and officials will not have time to learn the new rules or adjust their work. Changing everything overnight is not realistic," he said. But Radapon believes there is still uncertainty over how long lasting the new rule will be. And in a quote, they say, "This bill comes as a ministerial regulation decided by a single minister. If the minister changes, the rules can flip again. That is risky for an industry that involves huge investments and thousands of jobs. Passing a full act of parliament would give the rules a stable democratic foundation to protect everyone who has invested time and money in the cannabis space," he added. And confusion over the future of cannabis in Thailand has been ever present since Thailand's Food and Drug Administration officially delisted cannabis from the narcotics list back in June of 2022. And Thailand's ruling Pheu Thai Party had initially pushed for cannabis to be reclassified as a narcotic, but in 2023, former Prime Minister Suretha Travarsian, sorry if I murdered your name, told reporters at the UN General Assembly in New York that cannabis would be only allowed for medical purposes. Pressure from Thailand's government coalition partner, the Benjamawadi Party, whose flagship policy was to decriminalize cannabis, has pushed for the plant to remain legal, and the new bill is expected to be a temporary measure before Thailand announces a comprehensive cannabis act to fully regulate the use, production, and export of the plant, and this is expected to be announced in 2 years, they say. Well, since 2 years, it seems like you guys still got some time to get out there to Thailand and get your smoke on or whatnot. But man, Thailand is like yesterday was also National Flip Flop Day, and I feel like Thailand is really acclimating to that, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I told y'all they were about to get tired of the bullshit. I told y'all, hey, California operator, quit going out there and showing your ass and acting like it's a free-for-all. They're gonna get sick of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened? What happened, Jason? What happened?
They got sick of it, Jenny.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
You know the fuck they did.
I think it was because of your story yesterday.
I mean, listen, yeah, the weed that was coming into him was in fact also coming from Thailand. And Thailand was also very clear about the fact that, hey, you could do it here. Don't you think about sending it the fuck up out of here, though.
I think it's. Oh, go ahead, Dr. T.
Last I was in Thailand, which is about 20 years ago, you could get prescription medicine through without seeing a doctor. So I'm curious why they're putting this barrier. I don't know, did they change their laws, or it's still easy to get prescription medicine without seeing a doctor there?
I would imagine.
I think it probably is for prescriptions, but I think that they're just, Dr. T, I think they're really, truly sick of what the American cannabis industry came over there and pulled.
You know, it happens a lot in a lot of countries that, you know what I'm saying, they necessarily don't want Americans because they feel like it they ruin their culture. They get all, you know what I'm saying, wild and crazy while they're there and whatnot, and really don't give American culture like an actual justification, or, you know, like a good set a good example for how Americans really are. It's basically they recreate the scenes that everybody sees on like Girls Gone Wild and different things like that when people are out of the country. So then they think that all Americans are like that, and that's just not reality. Nothing else, guys?
By the way, previous story at Hawaii Sustainable says that the law was more restrictive, not less restrictive. The caregiver law. Just wanted to give him his voice. He's on the boots on the ground there.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, they had tried to dial it back and give them, well, I mean, from the previous law where it was way easier, but then they cut it down to one person per caregiver, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. So they've upped it to 5, and hopefully they'll continue. But yeah, no, it's definitely more restrictive than it was, but a hell of a lot better than taking it fully.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason, I don't know. I guess stop showing your titties in Bangkok, and maybe Thailand will stop thinking we're Girls Gone Wild.
I mean,
don't know how to respond to that one, do you?
I really don't. I mean, especially with all the other things that people traditionally go over to Thailand for, I feel like this is really not the thing that they should be focusing on. But, you know, then again,
oh, you mean same but different?
Whatever you want to call it. That's a cute way to put it. But sure, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Same but different.
Bangkok is well known for its alternative medicine therapies, a world leader in that. So I think this is also interesting from that perspective.
Now, it doesn't go into, Dr. T, them mentioning as far as how recommendations or prescriptions will be written, or what will be the process. It also doesn't mention if there's going to be any reciprocity from tourists from wherever they live. And to me, I would think that they would want to encompass something along that lines, or, you know what I mean? Or maybe there's going to be, you know, little pop-up doctor's offices at the airport when you get through customs, like, hey, come and get your Thai recommendation, or, you know, prescription while you're here in Thailand.
Yeah, it happens here. So
the medical cannabis will be like the recreational cannabis. Same but different.
Same but different. Exactly. That just might be the case. All of a sudden, Thailand's going to be the new Venice Beach. Man, I could totally see.
Dr. T, would you consider writing recommendations in Thailand?
That's a far reach for me. I might guide another doctor who lives there into writing. In fact, one of the old Medican doctors moved there because of the alternative medicine. So maybe Dr. D'Angelo is out there and may want to do that.
You're welcome. I'll be here for my 10% on Friday for that great idea.
Well, Dr. T, at the same time too, Dr. T, you know, I mean, I had a doctor back that we did online inspections where we had a nurse practitioner on site, and then the doctor came in via teleconference and whatnot. And that would be a way for you to be able to still write some prescriptions or whatnot in Thailand. But I wonder if they're going to allow any doctor to be able to write these, or you're going to have to be licensed in Thailand to actually write that prescription recommendation, whatever they're going to ultimately call it.
Yeah, likely licensed in Thailand.
Interesting. Dr. Mark, you have any thoughts on Thailand? They're talking about reversing it and just going to medical.
Bring back the Thai stick. That's all I have to say.
Bring back the Thai stick.
When I was a kid, we used to go to Central Park and be able to actually buy Thai stick from a gentleman who would sell them to us. And we used to get high as fuck on that weed back in the day.
Getting it.
Right?
Getting it. And on that, speaking of getting high as fuck, we're going to go roll on in to Dr. Jean Tallyrand. He's the founder. He's the one that will write your recommendations so you can get high as fuck. And he is the founder of Medican and of the CESC. And you can find him online all the time. It is none other than Dr. Jean Tallyrand.
Thanks, Jason. Some people don't like the psychoactive effect, and I'm definitely a proponent of products with CBD, less psychoactive effect.
Fair enough.
Whatever works for you. Anyway, my headline today is from Marijuana Moment. DEA promotes claim that marijuana could be more likely to cause psychosis than meth, by Kyle Yeager. The Drug Enforcement Agency is giving way to the idea that marijuana could be more likely to cause psychosis than methamphetamine, promoting a recent article where a psychiatrist indicated that the jury is out on the question. Marijuana is defined by the DEA as the cannabis plant containing THC levels greater than 0.3%. In an email blast on Wednesday, DEA's Just Think Twice campaign shared a link to the story from the Lund report with a subject line that asks, meth or cannabis, which raises risk of psychosis more? Studies have linked early and heavy use of cannabis to schizophrenia and psychosis, DEA said, while prominently featuring a quote from Oregon-based psychiatrist David Retu, who said there's overwhelming evidence that cannabis use, particularly for young people, changes the brain. And this is particularly true for adolescents. But when it comes to psychosis, there's really strong evidence at this point that cannabis raises the risk of psychotic disorders more than other drugs, even methamphetamine, which is surprising, Retu said. Just to set the record straight, there's not really strong evidence as claimed by Dr. Retu. By definition, the nature of the evidence is weak and indicates correlation and not causation. While that was the only reference to meth in the original article, the DEA evidently felt the standalone quote warranted more attention, with the subject line that indicated it was a key component of the reporting in the agency's view. This comes amid lingering questions about how DEA will navigate a pending marijuana rescheduling proposal that was initiated under the Biden administration. And while the agency has long been known to promote sensational claims about the risk of cannabis use, it appears there's been a stepped-up push to reinforce that message, particularly for youth. For example, DEA recently teamed up with an anti-marijuana organization to mark National Prevention Week, promoting a campaign that encourages people to share memes with dubious claims about the effects of cannabis, including the theory that it is a gateway drug to using other substances. The memes ran the gamut, citing certain reports and studies that have been contradicted by other research. One meme claimed that cannabis use is associated with a 50% decrease in sperm count, which the DEA promoted meme suggested could contribute to infertility. Again, that's completely false. In March, DEA separately promoted an anti-420 Day campaign with Johnny's ambassadors that recruited students to send short videos warning their peers about marijuana use. The plan was to flood Instagram with the short-term videos that would feature students talking about why young people should not use THC. DEA has developed a reputation for its awkward messaging and educational materials around youth drug use. Beyond its youth prevention outreach efforts, DEA is actively considering a proposal to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substance Act, but that process has been delayed and legal challenges by witnesses participating in administrative hearings to finalize the proposed rule. In written responses to questions from 2 Democratic senators as part of this confirmation, the nominee for DEA Administrator Terrence Cole largely demurred on multiple questions about cannabis policy issues. Cole, whose nomination was advanced by a Senate committee last week, clearing the stage for his potential confirmation by the full chamber, has previously voiced concerns about the dangers of marijuana and linked its use to higher suicide risk among youth. While he gave non-committal answers when asked about rescheduling in the written questions, Cole said during an in-person hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee last month that examining the rescheduling proposal will be one of my first priorities. If he's confirmed for the role, saying it's time to move forward on the stalled process, but again, without clarifying what end result he would like to see. So if you ever seen someone crouched over and staring at the sidewalk, insisting that there's something critically important lodged between the cracks, you have seen meth-induced psychosis. The DEA is not against promoting lies and using a doctor to do it. Their unrelenting approach, using misinformation as a strategy they've used since the agency was formed. As cannabis consumers, we are responsible for calling out their claims as false. In some polls, cannabis has an over 70% approval rating, with no one staring at the cracks in the sidewalk. This is Dr. Jean Tallyrand with High at 9 News.
I mean, Dr. T, do we really expect anything different coming out of the DEA as far as how you know, this has always been their motive of operandi the whole time they've been in existence, and so it's always been a cash grab for them when it comes to cannabis. They definitely don't want to lose the cash cow over there because of the name of the game is asset forfeiture, and they don't want to lose that ability, especially when cannabis is so easy to detect by the nose and whatnot. So it's easy for them to be able to search and different things like that. I mean, I'm not surprised that they're gaslighting everybody with this type of rhetoric.
I mean, they're
My
coming
question-
at. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dr. T.
I'm just curious, why isn't Doge like cutting back on DEA funding here? This is an unnecessary administration.
The reason Doge isn't cutting back on DEA funding is because we have a fentanyl epidemic, and I think it's more about.
We don't have a fentanyl epidemic.
There's Dr. T, you live in San Francisco. There's definitely a fentanyl epidemic going on.
Listen, I've been prescribing fentanyl for 20 years. It's regularly used in the hospital.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The reason why it's out in the streets right now is suspect. Huge suspect. Why wasn't it out in the street 20 years ago? Why is it all of a sudden out?
That's because all the other drugs were better than they are now.
No, the other drugs are better.
Yeah, other drugs were better then. They weren't as cut down as much as they are today, and so now they're just like, these people just needs totally something new.
You're saying fentanyl was always there. It's not new.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, back then the drugs were better. Back then they weren't as cut down as they are today, and so now, because they're not getting the same effects that they used to get from the drugs from back then, they're like, hey, we need something new, and so now this fentanyl is basically doing the trick, and so let's run with it.
Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, so back to the story. It seems like the DEA is gunning for Dale's title of full of shitakis.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who smoke a tremendous amount of weed. I know people who have done a tremendous amount of methamphetamine, unfortunately. And it ain't even close.
You're not even close.
I mean, God bless my brother. He's clean. He's staying clean. He's doing really, really well. Huge shout out to him. Very, 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 very proud of him, because that is a very hard thing to come back from. But I've never seen anybody get super stoned and say that their 2-year-old son is calling the cops on them and is snitching, or that, there's somebody under the house with a gun, or any of these other crazy things that made him frankly scary to be around.
Yeah.
And so this is shout out to marijuana fucking moment, I guess, for bringing this to light, but this is absolutely asinine.
that brings up a really good point, Jenny Beth. I've never seen anybody trip out like on cannabis like I do. Not saying that it hasn't happened, because there is a couple documented cases in relation to. So I'm not saying that it, but just on average, I've seen way more tweakers freak out and like be hiding in the trees, thinking that there are things there that aren't there or whatnot, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, taking the toaster apart, like all that shit.
Yeah.
For that reason, absolutely. Because the Russians have wanted to hear what's going on in their specific trailer park.
Exactly. I've seen that happen so many times.
This is absolutely crazy. I mean, Jason, I've seen you be absolutely psychotic, but I don't think it's causation. I think it's correlation.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of my psychotic episodes are real, based off of facts. Dr. Mark, you have anything you want to throw in on this?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, first of all, the DEA is in business for the DEA, right? They're not going to do anything that somehow affects their bottom line and what they work on and what they do and their funding and all that. Supposedly, Rohrbacher Farr prohibits the use of
federal funds being allocated,
federal funding for the DEA but I think they can kind of like, hide behind this fentanyl and other issues, like there's ways that they, a lot of people who are sort of in the underground deal with both, and when they do seize, you'll see pills, guns, big piles of cash, weed, you'll see everything there. So, I mean, the DEA, I think, just paints everything with a broad brush. And, as long as cannabis remains Schedule 1, they're going to continue to enforce the Controlled Substances Act, right? This kind of, butts heads with the hemp and regulated cannabis industries. And so that's always been the case. I don't think that, there's any quick solution other than to completely deschedule the plant. Because rescheduling, I think, is just going to feed the trap market.
Yep.
And certainly, I think, it's going to be a windfall for Big Pharma, who is interested in taking over MSOs and putting PMP type production to send, nugget to Walgreens, right? Where you're going to need a prescription from Dr. T to get it if it's Schedule 3. So, I think Dr. T and I are both in agreement that anything that increases access of cannabis to patients, as opposed to these synthetics, fentanyl is a synthetic. All the opiates that are out there, like oxys. I can tell you, just from the pain that I had from a Bradley sprained ankle, I tried all the cannabinoids. I tried butters. I tried nano emulsions. I tried topicals. I tried everything. Nothing worked. But 20 minutes after popping an Oxycontin, Dr. T, I felt no pain in my ankle whatsoever. So certainly they do play a role in pain management, but I guess it's really key for the patients to understand that, I was lucky because I had a bottle of Oxycontin that I got when I had hernia repair surgery, and I only used one after the hernia repair because I found I could just manage that pain with just ibuprofen. So I was lucky, Dr. T. I had like a bottle of Oxys in the medicine cabinet, and certainly, like, after trying, I tried naproxen sodium, I tried acetaminophen, I tried aspirin, I tried ibuprofen, nothing worked. Then I went to the oxys worked, right? So it's a shame that, again, people are basically tarring everything with the same brush, especially the DEA, because certainly the addictive qualities of things like oxys and other opiates and opioids is just a completely different thing than cannabis. Is cannabis really addictive? Well, I think those of us who enjoy using it are maybe addicted to a happy lifestyle, addicted to lowering stress in our lives, addicted to, ooh, I can't wait till I come home and rather than open a beer or pour myself a martini, I'm going to light a joint. So, I mean, it's all a matter of personal preference. We pride ourselves here in America of being, founded on freedom. So I believe we should all have the freedom to smoke a plant, or if we choose to eat a pill. But I think that doctors like Dr. T just have to make sure that patients are educated on the addictive properties of these things. Fentanyl, like Dr. T said, plays a role in certain levels of pain management post-surgery and other things where, again, cannabinoids just may not cut it, and certainly ibuprofen or over-the-counters won't cut it neither. So I think we have to separate medical use and legitimate use of some of these medicines with recreational use.
Yeah.
Well said.
Absolutely. You got to hippie wiggle a little more carefully next time, Dr. Mark, so you don't fuck your ankle up again.
Yeah.
I was wearing loose-fitting slippers and walking down a set of stairs I've walked down hundreds of times. Yeah.
Yep, you got to be careful.
Slippers.
Yep.
That'll do it.
Yep. Well, that was fantastic, and we are going to be right back after this commercial break.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. That. So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Enemy number one.
And oh man, and we are back, you guys. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it, you'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles will be on our website for you to read shortly after the show at www.highat9news.com. And also, make sure you go into the description, check out all of our sponsors that are listed in our sponsor section, and use the link to order yourself a case of Liberal Tears, 150 milligrams of caffeine in every can and 0 grams of sugar, and no liberals were harmed in the making of this product.
If I had like the structuring,
And we are
you get that on.
we are
and I'm
back,
like
you
throwing
guys.
up on myself, yeah.
All right, Jenny, we're back.
Oh,
Yeah.
myself. That was lovely.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
cool. So, isn't that cute? Thanks, Jason.
I said we're back. You didn't listen.
Well, me and Dr. Mark were having a conversation about OBGYN, obstetrics and gynecology.
Get
Both of them.
it.
So anyhow, let's roll on into a different kind of doctor, all the way from Vermont. Dr. Mark Scialdone, our chemical expert on the High at 9 News. That needs tighter fitting shoes.
Thank you, Jenny, and happy Friday to everyone. We got some great plans for the weekend. It's supposed to be rainy up here in New England, so I don't know what it's going to be like where you are, but hopefully you can get outside and enjoy this beautiful weather that you're having. And hope that cannabis are part of your plans for the weekend. So my story today comes from CNN, the cable news network, and it's entitled, Smoking weed and consuming THC-laced edibles linked to early heart disease study, or leads to early heart disease study finds. Okay, so healthy people who regularly smoke or consume THC-laced edibles are showing signs of earlier cardiovascular disease similar to tobacco smokers, a new study finds. Speaking of tobacco, everyone should go to this link. Jason, make sure that this link is posted.
It'll be on our website. It'll be on our website, Dr. Mark.
Okay, great. There's a whole story. I think it's Jake Tapper, one of the CNN correspondents, and they talk about a couple polls around cannabis use in general. And basically what they're finding is that cannabis use is on the upswing, especially with the demographic of younger folks. I think they were looking at people between 18 to 30. I guess that's right, 18 to 30. So that demographic is really consuming more cannabis than they're consuming tobacco, right? That's a good thing, right, Dr. T? And they're also consuming more hallucinogens than the prior generation. So I guess my generation, or baby boomers and the people who are between those two generations. So hallucinogens are on the upswing, and so is cannabis use. So maybe we had it figured out right in the Grateful Dead parking lot back in the 1970s. Smoke weed and do lots of psychedelics. Okay, so anyway, to my knowledge, this is the first study looking at THC's impact on vascular function in humans, said senior study author Matthew Springer, professor of medicine at the University of California, San Francisco. So this is in California. This is all funded, by the way, by the National Institutes of Health through the National Institute of Drug Abuse. So again, remember that these investigators had to write a grant proposal targeting the harms of marijuana, not the benefits of marijuana. So you have to take that into consideration as you understand what they're saying in this story. So we're looking into a window in the future showing that early changes that may explain why smoking marijuana has been linked to heart disease, Springer said. It appears that the act of smoking as well as THC itself both contribute to the changes in different ways. THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, is the component of marijuana that provides the high. Actually, to be more precise, it agonizes partially your CB1 receptors in your frontal neurocortex, which is the reason why you feel the way you do after you smoke. So THC is a component of marijuana that provides the high. Prior research in mice found that it damages blood vessels that supply oxygens to vital organs after exposure to marijuana smoke, Springer said. When marijuana is smoked, the impact impacts the human vascular system. However, how it does so is unknown at this point. We found that vascular function was reduced by 42% in marijuana smokers and 56% in THC edible users. Compared with non-users. That's really fascinating, Dr. T. That's really interesting that THC edibles is impacting vascular function. Makes me think that somehow these two things aren't connected, that they're looking more at correlation than causation. Lead study author Dr. Leah Mohammadi, an assistant researcher in cardiology at the University of San Francisco, California, said in an email. The research shows only an association. So again, here's basically me explaining that it is an association. So it's not causation, but it's an association, right? And maybe Dr. T, after the story, you can talk a little bit more about causation and association. Okay, so the research only shows an association. We can state that cannabis users have poor vascular function. Well, that's interesting. I mean, to me, maybe that vascular function is impacted by the fact that we're smoking cannabis and smoking is just a bad thing. It's interesting that they find that correlation though to people who are doing edibles. So that's why I find this very interesting. The findings on THC edibles are surprising. Well, there you go. They find it surprising too, said Dr. Andrew Freeman, director of the Cardiovascular Prevention and Wellness Center at the National Jewish Health Center in Denver. Could it be that other forms of marijuana, teas, tinctures, edibles, perhaps not as benign as we once thought, said Freeman, who was not involved in the study, but it sounds like CNN just had him sort of comment on the studies. We need larger studies to make better conclusions about this finding. So a single layer of endothelial cells, these are the cells that make the blood vessels. So your blood vessels are made of cells. Those are called endothelial cells. So this is basically the plumbing that provides blood throughout your body, right? When functioning properly, these specialized cells release chemicals such as nitric oxide, not nitrous oxide, nitric oxide, different molecule, same elements, nitrogen and oxygen, but just different ratios. That nitric oxide is emitted and then controls the relaxing and contracting of the cardiovascular canal itself, thus regulating blood flow. Healthy endothelium cells play a role in local cell growth and help prevent blood clotting in healthy vessels. When endothelial cells are inflamed, plaque buildup can increase in arteries over time, potentially causing heart attacks, strokes, heart failure, and other types of heart disease. Damage to small vessels, including kidney and lungs, can cause comas, delirium, and dementia. These studies, however, did not measure plaques, so the findings do not mean that the blood vessel plaques were specifically caused or blocked by cannabis use, right? So this is more of, again, that association versus causation. The vessels did not grow in diameter in real time when they need to pass more blood, indicating an unhealthy vessel wall that could result in cardiovascular disease, he said. Prior studies have found that strong links between marijuana use and cardiovascular disease does exist. In February 2024, a study found that smoking, vaping, or eating marijuana led to significantly higher risk of heart attack and stroke, even if the person had no heart conditions or did not smoke or vape tobacco in any form. Stroke risk rose 42%, and the risk of heart attacks rose by 25% if cannabis was used daily, and the risk climbed as the numbers of days of consistent cannabis use rose, the study found. Even using marijuana every day can raise a person's risk of coronary artery disease by 1/3 with those who never partake at all, a February 2023 study found. The American Heart Association advises people from refrain from smoking or vaping any substance, whether it's tobacco or cannabis. That includes cannabis products, but also just the potential that smoking can cause damage to both heart, lungs, and very important blood vessels. Guidance released in 2020 pointed to studies that found that heart rhythm abnormalities like AFib and other things like that you've probably heard about, such as tachycardia and AFib, there you go, can occur within an hour of containing or an hour after using products that contain THC, including smoking. 25 or 55 participants in the study were divided into 3 groups. People smoked, not vaped marijuana. 3 or more times in a week over the last year. Were compared with people who consumed THC edibles at least 3 times a week in the last year, and then non-users. None of the 18 to 50-year-old people in the study were tobacco smokers or vapors, and little had exposure to secondhand tobacco smoke. So they're trying to basically take tobacco out of the equation in this study. Researchers performed an ultrasound on major arteries in the upper right arm of each person, and then applied a tight blood pressure cuff for 5 minutes. And then the cuff was removed. The artery was rescanned to see how well it had dilated or widened to handle the increased blood flow, a process that needs to happen along with the concomitant release of nitric oxide to occur to reestablish blood flow to where it was cut off by the cuff. So damage to endothelial cells that regulate dilation was related to the dose according to the study. Study participants who used marijuana had a greater risk of damage to blood vessels that carry oxygen to the body's organs. Higher cannabis use, whether smoked or ingested, is associated with poorer vascular function. I'm glad they used the word associated there, right, Dr. T? So it's associated with, doesn't mean it actually causes. Highlighting the cardiovascular risk that increases with higher potency and frequency of cannabis use. Additional tests to the neck and thigh check the stiffness of the person's blood vessel walls. Again, were compared with people who never used cannabis at all and didn't appear to have the same level of stiffness to the blood arteries. That's what the study found. Okay, so a separate analysis added blood serum from cannabis smokers and edible users to commercially purchase cultures of endothelial cells in the laboratory. So now what they're doing is a petri dish study, putting endothelial cells in there and then treating it with a blood serum from people who had smoked with it. The blood from people who used edibles with THC didn't appear to harm the cells. They produced adequate amounts of nitric oxide. However, the endothelial cells that were incubated with serum from marijuana smokers released 27% less nitric oxide than those treated from blood from non-smokers. So that definitely shows that there is a fact of whatever is in the blood is affecting nitric oxide release. So I learned that from reading this article. Mm-hmm. Okay, that evidence is similar to what is found in tobacco, Springer said, pointing to a prior study by him and his team showing endothelial cells incubated with serum from tobacco smokers released 39% less nitric oxide than non-smokers. These observations that marijuana smokers and THC users have poor vascular function might make people conclude that THC is responsible for all of this and the smoke is irrelevant. That would be an ill-advised conclusion. Well, thank you, Dr. Springer. I appreciate you saying that. According to Springer, there are many reasons to believe that marijuana smoke itself could be responsible, and THC may damage the blood vessels in very, very different ways. So rats exposed to marijuana smoke with no cannabinoids at all had vascular and cardiac impairment. Plus, tobacco smoke is known to cause heart disease, and it has no THC. So I think what he's bringing out here is really, really super important, that there might just be other components in smoke that's affecting the release of nitric oxide and not necessarily THC itself. As for marijuana edibles, teas and tinctures and the like, and people who think that there's maybe a Goldilocks zone, this is perfect, I'm not smoking, but I could still get my cannabis. The jury's still out, so there needs to be more studies that understand what THC's impact is. And this study shows what a lot of studies show, is that we need to do more studies, which is all the more reason why everybody watching the High at 9 News should write their congressmen and write their senators and tell them that the Doge-Trump shutdown of the NIH needs to be unpaused. They need to get the money flowing through the NIH to these very important research labs that are doing all of this research work, including my laboratory, which is NIH funded. So please write your congressman, tell them, and your senators, and tell them that the shutdown of the NIH has to stop, and they need to continue funding this very important research so America could maintain its leadership in science and biomedical research in the world. So that's my story today from the shores of Lake Champlain here in Vermont. I'd be interested in what Dr. T. So Dr. T, just to follow up on this, tell us more about, again, causation and association. So causation is where a study like this would show that THC use is directly causing something bad to happen. In the case with tobacco use, we know that nicotine and some of the other degradants that are found in tobacco smoke directly leads to cancer, so that one thing causes another thing. But tell us more about causation versus correlation and association.
Well, absolutely. It's important to also understand, the numbers behind relative risks and odds ratio. But causation is that we definitely prove that one thing causes another, while correlation means that it could be many things causing the problem, but they tend to happen together. In this study, the difference was, I believe, 1.1 to 1.5 was the difference increase, which indicates, out of 20 people, or 10 people, what is that, an increase of 10 or 20%? Yeah, might be 3-4 more people in the group that would get the heart disease. Or actually, are they actually measuring heart disease, or are they just measuring flow?
Well, no, they're measuring the resiliency of the blood vessels to recover after this cuff is placed on, and then they release the cuff. So they want to see, can the blood vessels now increase in diameter to basically deliver more blood. So it's looking at the elasticity of the arteries to basically supply more blood where blood was cut off.
Yeah, beautiful, but not reality, right? We're talking about heart disease rather than signs of heart disease, and that's kind of part of the
right. I think that was just I think that was just their model for looking at, and then they also did the in vitro stuff where they took endothelial cells, put them in a petri dish, and then are measuring nitric oxide release. So I think what's known is that, again, nitric oxide will cause smooth muscle dilation, which will cause basically the arteries to grow in size. Maybe there's a certain kind of amount of, again, the background products and smoke that are affecting this, because they do point out that, again, tobacco smoke, they see some of the same things to some of the same degree. I think it's really super interesting here, Dr. T, about the edible, right? So what they show in the edibles is that, and again, this is an association. It's not a causation. It's not saying that eating a marijuana edible or a THC edible is going to give you heart disease. But what they see is that there's trends in people who eat edibles that have higher risk in heart disease, right? And so couldn't that be like people who are prone to eating gummies? Well, those people love candy, so they love a sugar diet. Could, sugar be the ultimate,
culprit, right?
Cause?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're going down. I mean, with 55 people into 3 subgroups, you're talking a power that's so low that I wouldn't even trust. We need to, on an order of magnitude of 100, of 100 times the number of people that we've studied to really get good evidence of this. So let's do more studies. Interesting that this was funded by NIDA, and as you said earlier,
exactly.
That this was intended to show harm. So they're probably going to get some more funding from the
16 authors on this paper. Okay. And a number of these authors are professors and research associates who are all paid by NIH funding at the University of California, San Francisco. you know that those are medical doctors. Some of them are probably MD, PhDs. They're probably making salaries in the 200,000 area. That's
and we didn't have enough money to fund a study bigger than 55
right.
subjects.
So when you say that they're only looking at a cohort of 55 people, this was probably a $10 million study paid for by our tax dollars. Our tax dollars fund this research, right?
Paid propaganda. Right.
Y'all done pissed Dr. Mark off. Y'all need to go ahead and fund his study.
Well, and in order for these people to continue their work, they need to make sure that their proposal goes to NIDA, right? So NIDA is the National Institute of Drug Abuse, right? And they want to be funding research that shows the negative aspects of cannabis. So obviously, from this paper, they're showing potentially a negative aspect of cannabis use, that cannabis use, whether edible or smoked, increases your risk to heart disease. Guess what? They're gonna get more funding from the NIDA. So this is part of the whole process of funding medical research through the National Institutes of Health, which these guys have figured out, hey, we found something that marijuana is not good for. It increases the risk to heart disease. So guess what? These 16 authors, MD, PhD authors, millions of dollars. This is a huge moneymaker for the University of California, San Francisco, right? Because they get all that money coming in from the NIH. That money helps pay for the parking lot, the flagpole, the nice bed of flowers in front of the building, the toilet paper that they wipe their asses with. It pays for everything. So again, please, folks, write your congressmen, write your senators. Even though you might think that this research is not worth doing, there's lots of research that's going on at the NIH funds that's really, really important research. There's a lot of research that NIDA funds that shows that cannabis use can reduce the harm of opiates, Dr. T. So NIDA will fund cannabis use where cannabis use can be benefit to reducing harm for people who are addicted to opiates. So not everything that NIDA does is bad, but if you go to the NIH.gov reporter, what you can see is that the NIH spends millions and millions of dollars researching cannabis, and not all of it is bad. 10 years ago, all of it would be funded by the NIDA. Now, some of them are funded by the National Institute of General Medicine, the National Cancer Institute, National Institute for Stroke and Traumatic Brain Injury. So all of these institutes now are looking at positive impacts that cannabis use can have. And one thing RFK wanted to do was shut down the National Center for Complementary Medicine or something like that, and integrative health. That's a very important institute in the NIH that funds a lot of positive benefit for cannabis users. So we got to make sure, again, we write our politicians. They work for us. We don't work for them. This NIH money comes from our pockets. It comes from our tax dollars. We want it spent doing research that is very important research on the cannabis plant. So I'll stop talking about that. But anyway, it's important.
What ply toilet paper do you prefer in the lab?
Oh boy.
Two ply myself.
Oh boy.
I like Great Northern. My wife prefers Charmin, but that's here at home.
Oh man, that's cute. That's cute, man. Thank you so much for covering this today, Dr. Mark, because we do have to expel the bullshit. When I saw this, I was like, this is crazy that they're even talking about this in this kind of way. And I agree with you as far as I think the sugar is probably a larger cause than the cannabis in correlation with all of this, Dr. Mark. And I threw in the chat a little comment. I was like, I think that the reason that this study is showing these results is all attributed to law enforcement, because when you're high and law enforcement gets behind you, then all of a sudden your heart starts racing faster. And that's pretty much how the game goes with this. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial and we're going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Yes, and we are back, you guys.
We've got Jason Beck doing his fastest reading skills today because he's got 2 stories to cover. What you got, Jason Beck?
All right. Well, you guys are going to love this. And so I did choose a final story to end the show on a good note. But this is a little, you know what I'm saying? This is a little disturbing, you guys, because New Jersey lawmakers mull whether to recriminalize some of cannabis sales and purchases, you guys. That's right. Lawmakers muled the idea on Thursday whether New Jersey should ramp up enforcement against unlicensed cannabis sellers by passing a bill that would criminalize the purchase of unlicensed marijuana. The bill riled cannabis activists who say it would bring back the criminalization of weed that New Jersey's marijuana legalization law was supposed to end, they say. Under the bill, sponsored by Senate President Nick Scanturi, a Democrat from Union, it would be a third-degree crime to operate an unlicensed marijuana business and a disorderly persons offense to knowingly purchase from one. A person who leads an illegal marijuana business network would be charged with a second-degree crime. And in a quote, they say, "We have a problem where people are opening up brick-and-mortar stores, small stores, unlicensed to sell these products, and quite frankly, they're just selling them, and this state is doing nothing about it," Scanturi told the Senate Judiciary Committee on Thursday. An additional quote, he says, "We need to do something more about these brick-and-mortar stores, but we also need to continue to fight back against drug dealers because those are alive and well," he says. Scanturi spearheaded legalizing adult-use cannabis, first introducing legalization to regulate it for adult use in 2014, and after bills languished in the legislature, adult-use cannabis was legalized in 2020 by voters, and Scanturi was the primary sponsor of the bill to launch the legal marijuana industry. Scanturi said the new legislation would be a corrective measure in response to the black and gray market that has flourished even though hundreds of cannabis dispensaries have opened statewide. New Jersey has some of the most expensive cannabis in the nation for both medical and adult use consumers, and the industry has raked in over $1 billion in sales since it launched back in April of 2022. The committee did not vote on the bill, which does not yet have a companion in the assembly, and lawmakers generally voiced support for Scanturi's proposal to address the unlicensed THC products that they say undermine the regulated industry. Senator Joe Laguna, Democrat from Bergen, said she's seen questionable cannabis products in every single gas station I walk into, every convenience store, every corner store, she says. But senators also repeatedly place blame on the Attorney General's office, accusing it of not enforcing the state's cannabis laws. Senator Mike Testa blasted Attorney General Matt Platkin for what he called absentee leadership, and Senator John Bramnick, Republican from Union, said that once certain laws aren't enforced, the community loses respect for government, they said. Bramnick suggested the committee should call on Platkin to appear before them on the issue and said ignoring the law is disrespectful to this body, he says. A spokesperson for Platkin did not respond to requests for comments, and cannabis advocates who helped usher in the adult use market criticized Scanturi's bill as a dangerous reversal, and one of them, Attorney Bill Caruso, told committee members they need to speak to local mayors and law enforcement about the tools they need to fight against unlicensed cannabis sales. In a quote, he says, "We don't need to reinvent the wheel here, and I don't think we need to go backwards in recriminalizing, particularly consumers," he said. He also agreed
agreed that the Attorney General needs to explain to the elected officials of this body why laws aren't being enforced. And Larry Grant is a cancer survivor who takes cannabis for chronic pain and is a board member of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana. And Grant called the bill deeply unethical and the opposite of what legalization set out to achieve. People with cancer or chronic pain, disability could be arrested simply for accessing a plant that helps them survive, he said. Recriminalization is not regulation, it's retaliation, he says. And Scanturi said he's open to changes to the bill, but establishing the crimes of selling and in some cases purchasing unlicensed marijuana is necessary in order to drive people to a place where they can buy it legally, he says. We would not accept the corner store that didn't have a liquor license to sell liquor, and we shouldn't accept the corner store selling cannabis product without a license, nor should we accept people selling it out of their garage, he said. We have a legal marketplace now, and there are good reasons for it because it is safe for people to ingest that product, he says. And in a final quote, recriminalization is not regulation, it's retaliation, from Larry Grant, the board member of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana, you guys. Well, sounds like New Jersey is about to be the next Thailand or something like that, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
It's more like the next New York. They're just like, cut the shit, guys. We have a license program here. You guys can get delivery. You can get your fucking weed legally. And I'm guaranteeing this is coming on the backs of a bunch of New Jersey licensed operators crying about the bodegas.
You know, I just feel like this is you know, the fact that they want to arrest customers, I feel like is a serious problem. Like that to me is just crazy. It was like back in the days when they would do like the prostitution stings and they would arrest the Johns. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, you guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's not what's going on over here. Really?
They still do those, Jason. They still do those.
I know. I watch Cops on the weekends. I you know what I'm saying? I see it.
Cops. Jason's favorite show.
I do enjoy, Cops. One of the greatest shows the country's ever made.
Yeah.
Any
Dr.
thoughts?
Mark?
Yeah, Dr. Mark, Dr. T, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, what's New Jersey the home of? Other than the boss.
Car thefts.
No, it's the home of the wise guys. The wise guys. Come on, man.
All right. Well, I mean, it is.
My Italian American brethren, right? If there's money to be made, the wise guys are doing it. And I'm not just talking about the Italian wise guys. I know. We went to this was BizCon a number of years ago, and I was talking to an Indian gentleman, not American Indian, Indian, and him and his family own about 45 different convenience stores in Jersey City and Patterson and Newark and all the urban areas of Jersey, and they are one of those shops that sells whatever. Kratom, they sell nicotine vape stuff. Now they sell CBD. Now they sell HHC, THCP, all that stuff, right? I mean, how do you snuff that out? This family owns 40 convenience stores, right? How do you snuff that? You can't snuff that out. And you go inside the convenience store, right? And you could go there. You could buy a sandwich. You could buy a copy of the New York Times.
I think a lot of it.
You might be able,
Dr. Mark, I think a lot of it is these lawmakers aren't educated as to hemp products versus cannabis products, even though we all know it's all the same thing, okay? But at the same time, it's very different as far as the rules that it operates under. And so I think a lot of these people are just confused and need to get educated in relation to that when they make those kinds of comments.
Well, but the thing is, I mean, it's the same thing across the river in Manhattan. I know Kathy Hochul wants to, really have a nice, tight, regulated system. She knows that there's a lot of money being made. But I mean, God, have you been to Manhattan lately? Manhattan used to smell like chestnuts and urine and pretzels. Now it smells like weed from one corner of the island to the other.
That's better than
this
piss.
Is unlike Los Angeles. I didn't see this in Los Angeles, but certainly in New York, there's like 5 weed stores every freaking block in Manhattan. And the place that you go and buy yourself, I don't know, are you a Taylor ham or pork roll person? I don't know. You can get your Taylor ham and your scrambled eggs and cheese on a hard roll, nice New York sandwich like that. You can get a copy of the New York Times, and you can get a half ounce of weed, all in the same store, all in the same bill, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you don't have to go to a dispensary. You don't need a license from a doctor. I don't know. How do you snuff that out?
Well, Uncle Polly 420 in the chat, he says right now Jersey won't investigate cannabis related crimes unless it's an illegal grow or massive units, he says.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They don't.
I mean, New York metropolitan area is a lot like Los Angeles. It's like they can't deal with these like low level shit. The other thing that's New Jersey is the home to is the pharmaceutical industry, right? So every pharmaceutical company has got a factory somewhere or a laboratory somewhere in New Jersey. So you know that, again, the medical side of things, I mean, it's a state with an established medical and pharmaceutical industry. How this plays out, who knows? I mean, I always remember like Governor Christie not being a big proponent of medical cannabis, and he tried to keep medical cannabis from helping that one epileptic child, and they made a big thing out of it.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, in general, people need access to cannabis, including kids, especially sick kids. Are these convenience stores ever going to be snuffed out? Can they ever get rid of any of that? I mean, what are they going to do with Kratom?
Yeah.
And all the nicotine vape stuff. People are probably getting more sick and dying off the nicotine vape stuff than they are off the cannabis vape stuff. So it's like, what, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you possibly go about this? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Dr. Mark wants to take my geek bars. I don't like it.
Well, I mean, I'm just being a realist,
Yeah.
If you can go to a convenience store, buy a lottery tickets, a 6-pack of beer, and get a half ounce of weed, you're going to do that, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's just it's convenience, right? And those Indians know that they're kind of skirting the law, and it's hemp. It's THCA. It's whatever. It's fucking weed, dude.
It's all THCA at the end of the day, Dr. Mark, and you know that. Yeah, exactly.
I think so. I think so.
See?
I mean, there's still, I'd hate to see what Gavin Newsom did in California, where now he completely outlaws all hemp stuff. And now the patients that Bonnie Goldstein is prescribing, now they're outlaws, right? Because they need CBD, or they need some CBD THC ratio or something. It's not psychoactive, whatever. That's for kids who are patients, right, Dr. T? And so I think what Gavin Newsom's done is paint this really broad stroke that ends up taking out a lot of these people who medically really need the cannabis.
You want to touch on that, Dr. T?
Absolutely. It definitely messes with the industry, which I think Gavin Newsom seems to be okay with. Unfortunately, the regulated cannabis industry hasn't been providing these high CBD products at the level that the hemp industry has. And so this really hurt a lot of patients unnecessarily.
Fair enough. I'm with you guys on that. I don't think that this is the way to go, but we'll see what happens, and we'll keep make sure that we're monitoring the story here at High and 9 News throughout the progress or destruction of this bill ultimately, and we will keep you guys updated and posted. But now on a happier note, you guys, I promised you a happier story, and since we got the doctors today, it is a doctor focused study, you guys. That's right, because And this is something that I've known for a long time, Dr. T. So can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this, because CBD reduces seizures and brain damage in post-traumatic epilepsy model, you guys. That's right. A new study published in the Journal of Enthopharmacology finds that cannabidiol, CBD, may offer protective and anticonvulsant effects in cases of post-traumatic epilepsy, better known as PTE. Researchers from Hunan University of Medicine and Ningxia Medical University in China conducted the study using a rat model of PTE triggered by ferric chloride. And you'll appreciate this, Dr. Mark. It's capital F, lowercase e, capital C, lowercase L, and the small little baby number 3, including genetically modified. There we go. Including genetically modified rats with overexpressed TRPV1 receptors in the brain. CBD treatment led to a marked decrease in seizure severity and brain tissue damage, and EEG monitoring showed that CBD reduced seizure-related electrical activity, including total power and spike wave discharges. At the molecular level, the study found that CBD inhibits the TRPV1, HSF1, and HSP70 signaling pathway, and specifically, it blocks the cisfloration of heat shock factor number 1, better known as HSF1, by acting on TRPV1 receptors, which in turn suppresses the stress-induced expression of heat shock protein 70, better known as HSP70, and a pathway believed to contribute to seizure susceptibility and neurotional stress, they said. The findings suggest that CBD may hold potential as a preventative treatment for PTE, a condition currently lacking effective prophylactic therapies, and the study concludes that by stating that, in quotes, CBD experts an anticonvulsionist and neuroprotective effect on PTE rats by regulating the TRPV1, HSF1, and HSP70 pathway, and may be a potential drug for the prophylactic treatment of PTE, you guys. Look at that. How'd I do with that, Dr. Mark?
Yeah, you did good.
All right.
You did good.
What do y'all got to say about? I think this is great news.
Little baby 3 was my favorite part, Jason.
It was. It's a tiny little baby 3. It's pretty cute.
The third power, I believe, Jason.
No, it's not. It's at the bottom. It's at the bottom. It's not at the top.
It means that there's. It means that it's iron 3 plus, and so the chlorides, you need 3 chlorides to minus to neutralize the iron 3 plus. So FeCl3 is FeCl with a little baby 3 at the bottom. Yes.
Little baby 3.
It's a little baby 3. It's super cute, little baby 3.
Jason, you did a good job with those big words today.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you did.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I wanted to make the doctors proud today. Yes, look at that.
So TRPV1 is definitely a target that a lot of cannabinoids bind to. TRPV1 is the capsaicin receptor, so that's the receptor that binds capsaicin, right? Which is what makes peppers hot. And there's all kinds of activity that goes on after that. So it opens up ion channels. You know, that's why capsaicin can be used again to vasodilate. So it's basically increase the size of your blood vessels. But yes, TRPV1, they actually thought about characterizing it as a cannabinoid receptor because it appears as though most of the phytocannabinoids do act on TRPV1, but in different ways. Yeah, I've been following this literature on CBD and TRPV1 because we think, you know, again, some of the things that happen are regardless of the cannabinoid receptors, CB1 and CB2, TRPV1 and PPAR and some of these other related receptors are some of the other targets that cannabinoids hit in the body. And I think Dr. T would agree, there's a myriad of different biological downstream effects that mitigates.
I agree. I think that the THC may have most of its effects through the CB1, CB2, but CBD has its major effects through the TRP receptors and the other receptors. you mentioned PPAR and A2 receptors and all that. It doesn't have as much activity on CB1 or CB2. So I've been following TRPV1 and CBD activity for a while. I think it's a major one.
It's a weak allosteric. It has allosteric interactions, but I think where it's related to the endocannabinoid system, tell me if I'm wrong, John, is that CBD inhibits FAH. FAH is FAAH, which is fatty acid amide hydrolase, and that's the regulatory enzyme that regulates anandamide, right? And anandamide is the body's own THC molecule, right? So our body makes anandamide. So CBD affects the enzyme that basically degrades that. So if it inhibits that enzyme, now you're going to have more anandamide, right? Because you're inhibiting that enzyme. But yeah, these biochemical targets in our body are very complex. And
yeah, but what about the effect on CBD on the TRPV for in topicals? You know, because we have a lot of TRPV receptors at the end of pain nerves.
Very trippy.
And it could be useful in neuropathy.
Absolutely. I think that, it's so interesting because if you look at the capsaicin molecules and you look at the phytocannabinoids, there is some structural homology. There's some similarity between the two.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, CBD acts on so many different targets, and in general is just it's a fat soluble antioxidant, right? So these phenolic groups that are on CBD basically give it its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. But yeah, it hits a number of different targets, which is again a reason why NIH needs to fund more research like this, so we can understand, okay, we hit those targets, what does that mean to a disease state? What does that mean to some developmental aspect of growth? I mean, could this be bad? Could this be good? Could we use this for some kind of intervening therapy in either a medical condition or a disease state, or perhaps use it? We know that CBD has incredible wound healing properties, right? So in and around wounds where you have remodeling of tissue, why are cannabinoids and cannabinoid receptors so important there? So we
Let's
really
put it in the water.
Yeah, like fluoride, right?
That would be awesome. That would be
CBD
awesome.
in the water.
Yeah. Well, you laugh, but actually, one of the ways that they determine CBD and drug use and cannabis use is that you ultimately find it in wastewater, right? So you could analyze the wastewater of a municipality and basically determine, what kind of drugs people are doing and what kind of shit literally goes down the toilet, right? Because all that stuff ends up in wastewater.
It's just like when cops search your trash can. You know what I mean? To see. Right. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Different kind of trash can.
pretty much. Oh man, this was great. I mean, I found this super interesting myself because I had a grand mal seizure on one day when I didn't consume any cannabis back when I was 5 days before my 21st birthday actually. And I had a grand mal seizure in my sleep and woke up in a hospital bed, tied down on life support, all kinds of craziness going on, and a big old tube going down my throat and all kinds of whatnot. And they said that the seizure was caused by my cerebral palsy, that there was just like something that triggered in my brain, and like there wasn't any reason. So I found this super interesting how it was talking about it controls the electric pulse component in the brain that would trigger something like that. I found that super interesting.
Were you consuming CBD back then?
I mean, I was smoking weed, bro. I was in, super trap city. You know what I mean? Back then, this is even before I even had a store.
Yeah, I don't think there was CBD weed.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily CBD weed, but I know that there's CBD in weed.
Yeah, but it wasn't type 3, right?
No, definitely not type 3.
AC/DC or Ringo.
No way, bro. I smoke fire, bro.
You don't think AC/DC's fire?
No. The AC/DC to me is best when it's extracted and in like a little tube to help patients with their ailments. That's my thought.
I agree. That's fire.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Am I using the word wrong?
Yeah, look at that. Look at Dr. Mark. Look at that beautiful New England coastline out there, Dr. Mark. Yeah, look at that.
Am I on mute? I'm on mute.
There you go. We hear you now, buddy.
That there is Lake Champlain, folks.
Yes, not Lake Champagne, Jenny, but Lake Champlain. A little bit.
Can jump in a lake of champagne?
See, exactly. And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested, and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Anthony out there in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.